Welcome to We Ain't No Hippies podcast number 4.
Hello.
Thanks for watching and listening, those of you who have. Make sure to remember to follow and subscribe. If you head over to the weaintnohippies.com website, you can find all the means to do that there and all our content. So today's podcast is a subject I like, puppies.
It is all about puppies. So we're going to be talking about the 5 main things of living in a van full-time, nomadically, and travelling across Europe with a puppy. So we're going to talk about what breed to get and what breeds you really probably shouldn't get, how to get a puppy, because it's much more difficult than you could anticipate. Thirdly, what to feed your puppy, given that we're in such a small environment, you can't stockpile lots of food. Number 4, the training, breaking it down into the 2 main things there, the toilet training and the recall training. And lastly, is how to get a pet passport and what to anticipate with that. So let's jump straight into the first section. What type of puppy do you get?
Yeah, so we both wanted to get a dog for different reasons. Nathan wanted one to be a deterrent.
Yeah, I wanted something which was a security, so we could leave him in the van if needs be. There's a lot of places in Europe you can't take your dog, like on the beach or into some city centres. And so leaving him in the van, although not our or everyone's preference, is inevitable sometimes. So it adds that security feature there. Also, when you're by yourself, off walking, it's a nice one more level of deterrent to keep people who don't have the best intentions away.
He's a fearsome sight. Yeah, so the main reason that I wanted a dog was the companionship side of it. We knew already that there was going to be plenty of occasions that I was going to have to go off on my own. That's always it's a lot nicer if you've got someone or something there with you.
Yeah. Now we had to do a lot of research into what breeds are banned in Europe and each specific country, because lots of countries have different ideas of what is an aggressive dog, what is a guard dog, what is an attack dog, and also what they expect of you, whether you have to keep them on a lead or muzzle them. So I think you've got some quick fire stats here.
Yeah, so my favourite one being Italy. They've been on a bit of a wild ride. 2003, they released a list which encapsulated 92 different breeds that were restricted.
That's quite a lot.
So not banned, but restricted. It included border collies, so we wouldn't have been allowed to take Floyd there, the lovable pup. And it also included corgis.
Excellent.
So I don't know if they were shown the wrong picture associated with the name corgi, potentially, but anyway. In 2009, that list then got completely cancelled. As far as I can tell, there isn't any sort of restrictions. I think more in local principalities or regions, there might be the local police community kind of doing that themselves. But you do need to have a muzzle on or with all dogs, even small dogs, and they need to be on leads the whole time that they're in public.
But it's not just Italy, is it? What other countries?
It's not, no. So France and Spain, they both have restricted breeds. They don't, I couldn't find that they had actual banned breeds, but they have restricted breeds.
Yeah.
With some countries, you have to have licenses to have certain restricted brands. It's Romania or Bulgaria.
Yes.
To own a Staffordshire Terrier, you need to have approval by a doctor to say that you're mentally sound, and you need to apply for a license to own it.
Proving any of that for any human.
Indeed,
yeah.
Indeed. So France and Spain, it's definitely worth looking that up if you are, because that's obviously a lot of people from the UK's first stop
Yeah.
for travelling over here. Scandinavia is another interesting one. there's a couple of the Scandinavian countries that ban what they term as wolf dogs.
Yes.
And that is a ban. That's not a restriction.
Okay.
So there's the two different meanings there. Switzerland as well. That's another country that have several breeds that are banned completely.
So check out what type of dog you want. There's lots of information online. It appears to be changing all of the time. Different legislation comes into force and is overruled, etc., etc. So keep up to date on that and try and look in advance. Now, so we took that into account when looking online for a dog or a puppy, and we tried to adopt one, a dog. He was about 3 years old. We felt that rather than just adding more to the equation, let's try and help the situation. Unfortunately, we came across a lot of rehoming centres or people that adopt and retrain dogs that either have behavioural issues due to being in poor home environments previously. They are really unwilling to let their dog or puppy into an environment such as a van, simply because conventional and traditional people don't understand the benefits of living nomadically or travelling or living in a van, and actually see the advantage is massive to a dog or puppy. And they're in new environments all the time. They're exploring different environments, and usually you're in a countryside, you're not stuck in a house or the such like, but they didn't really understand that. So that's why we looked at getting then a puppy instead of a dog. We felt at least we could take that animal and train it as it needs to be from a young age.
So that's basically why we ended up looking for a puppy rather than a dog. We did look at buying a dog privately, but then we reached the same hitches of the owner wants to come and visit your home.
Yes.
They want to do home visits afterwards for a really extensive period of time, considering it's now your dog.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's neither here nor there. So we actually ended up getting Floyd from a working farm.
Yeah.
We're quite wary of the whole puppy farm situation. Do not want to in any way get involved with that or unknowingly support that.
Yes.
So working farm, we went to see them. They had absolutely no time for us, so they were clearly actually working farmers.
Yeah, and we were able to meet both the mother and the father of the litter, which is always a bonus to ensure that you avoid the puppy farming situation. So we went with that working farm because also they're a lot looser in where their dogs go. Now that's a disadvantage in some situations, but to our situation where we wanted to actually look after a dog and give it a good life, that actually worked to our advantage. So that's how we found living in a van the best situation of how to get a puppy or a dog. So let's talk about food. We went for a lot of different options of what to feed Floyd, our puppy.
Feed
Floyd. We also experimented very quickly with a lot of different situations. Now you were much more involved in that than I was, because I don't get involved in food. So
I know food.
You know food.
I know food. So I had some very grand ideas before we got Floyd. I did an extensive amount of research on raw feeding and what's called the BARF diet.
Yes.
BARF. It can be quite controversial to a lot of people. There's a lot of people that say, why would you give your dog raw meat? But the whole point of it is you're giving them a diet that they would naturally have.
Yes.
I think a lot of people assume for some reason we're going to have a vegetarian dog.
Yeah.
Not the case. So after an extensive amount of internet research on raw feeding, I came up with a quite a large list of food that dogs can and can't eat, and more particularly for puppies that they can and can't eat.
So it's a really nice reference point, so we can quickly look at it all the time and be aware.
Exactly. So in terms of restrictions of living full-time in a van, I came up against that we just physically don't have enough storage space to sustain that raw diet without having to go into town every day to buy fresh food.
Yeah.
If you have a freezer, really, really easy, super easy. So we ended up kind of compromising and finding what we considered to be the best kibble.
The best kibble.
The best kibble. So what Floyd has now, he has his kibble, and we will mix that with either some sort of oily fish, because he has quite dry skin, so that helps him. He sometimes has some of our food,
Yes.
if it's fresh food, and it's all stuff that he can eat. So, you know, they can have just plain pasta and rice and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Most vegetables are fine. And so he lives like that. Really, that's what he eats. One bit of advice for that, though, is because processed food digests a lot slower than fresh food or raw food, you need to be careful on when you give them the fresh food, because if it gets stuck in between two lots of processed food, it can just start rotting in the gut and it can be quite harmful.
Very bad for them. Very bad. So that evolved, our food knowledge and that journey evolved very quickly over about 4 weeks, didn't it? Between experimenting with raw food, experimenting with almost traditional dog food, although that was really, we weren't into that idea whatsoever, and settling on this more balanced and diet which involves a lot of what we eat, which dictates a lot of what we eat and cook. So moving on from the food, you've got training in a small van or small apartment. We've come across other people that have trained their puppies in high-rise flats, so it's the similar kind of situation. So looking at the toilet training, and then we'll go on to the recall training. So the toilet training, firstly, it can take up to 8 months or more with a puppy. So don't ever feel like you're doing something wrong or you're not achieving. It's small steps and it goes on for some time. Don't feel bad if you feel like you're utterly failing at it. You genuinely aren't.
It does sometimes feel like for the first month all you're doing is chasing wee around the floor.
Yeah. So if you've got a carpet on your van floor,
get rid of it.
or
forget it.
put in some kind of vinyl really momentarily for that period. It just, otherwise it's going to get really minging.
Make sure you
really
park
quick.
flat.
That does help.
So it
Otherwise it rolls
roll.
away really quickly and you're trying to get in there to mop it up. So with a dog, it needs to feel confident and comfortable to go to the toilet. This is whether it's wee or poo or poop. This will immediately be, the comfort place will always and immediately be inside the van, because that's where they'll spend a lot of their time and it's their comfort place to hide from other dogs and where they're sleeping. So you've got to be aware of that and thus make sure environment is suitable to deal with that. Puppy proof to deal with that.
Our place is not puppy proof.
It's not entirely puppy proof, but the floor, it has got, you know, a wooden floor, so you can mop it up and deal with it quite quickly. Because travelling around and being nomadic and exploring different places means you're in new locations and there are new and different distractions every single time. So that van is always going to be the constant for them at first. And those distractions we've seen, whether we park next to a football pitch where kids are playing and they're fixated on that ball, that's all they want to do. So even if they're dying for the loo inside and you try and put them outside, you'll be there a long time because that's all they're looking at. Or whether there are other dogs around and you're parked next to, and that can be 50 or 100 meters away. If they hear him barking, they're going to be distracted by that, so they're not going to go to the toilet outside so easily. So you've got to just be aware of those situations and realise that you're not failing at that.
Totally.
So we've tried a lot of different techniques that we've read about online or people have shared with us. You know, we've tried going out every half an hour with him to make sure we catch that moment where they need the toilet.
Including throughout the night, we did.
Even throughout the night. That didn't work for us. So
he was just confused.
Yeah, he just didn't know why he was going outside all the time. We've tried staying out for hours. We've read this online where people say, take a brolly and take a book. It doesn't matter if it takes 3 hours. I don't believe any of them have done that. Only last week, we were out there for 4.5 hours. But because of that distraction thing, as soon as he came back in, because it got to about 11 o'clock at night, as soon as he came back in, he then had the biggest pee of his life. So that doesn't always work. We tried setting a schedule where 8 o'clock in the morning I'd go out for him, 11 o'clock, 4 o'clock, 6 o'clock, 10 o'clock. That schedule didn't work with our dog. We tried feeding him at the same time, exactly the same time, and that started...
It worked for the pooping.
It worked for the poop.
Not for the peeing.
No,
purely because he drinks sporadically.
Yes.
You can't give them a drink at set times throughout the day, because you always need to make sure they've got a drink.
Yeah.
That's top tip.
but their solid food will digest generally at a certain rate, and so you can...
Providing that you allow for the different food types.
Yeah.
Processed food, as I said, digests for a longer amount of time.
Yeah.
So you kind of got to balance it out in your head.
So as soon as he did start peeing outside, we were ready with a treat and lots of praise.
Except for the fact that he first started peeing in a river, knee-deep in a river.
Yeah.
And I couldn't get to him to give him praise and a treat. And then there's no point in praising them, 5 minutes later when he comes back, because he's like, oh,
he's
all right,
forgotten it.
What's this for?
Yeah. So Floyd started peeing by water. We found that was the constant for him.
Yeah, it was always in water. So we tried to make an effort for that training process, take him for walks where we knew that there was going to be water that he could kind of get his paws into and have a bit of a splash around. And it worked.
Yeah.
It was the river, it was the sea. If he was playing with the sea, he'd go mad for the sea, have a pee.
But other friends of ours with dogs have found that with their dog it's a bush, or it's on grass, or it's against a lamppost. You've just got to find what the pattern for your dog is, where they suddenly feel comfortable, and try and accentuate and make that situation happen every time to get them into the habit of peeing firstly outside before they then start getting comfortable peeing anywhere.
Yeah.
That's what we've found so far on the toileting front. And it's still not perfect with us. He's 5 months old now, and he will still pee inside.
It's quite occasionally now though. It's not every day anymore.
No.
The longer we stay in one place, the more he will do it outside, because he just gets more confident, more comfortable outside.
Yes.
But we're finding that as he is getting older and we are progressing with that training, he's having less and less accidents inside, so he's becoming more confident with being in new places every so often.
Yeah, he's getting used to that. So moving forward on the training side of things, we were looking at recall training because of how important it is.
Especially when you are constantly in different places and the dog doesn't always have that one base to return back to every single time.
So because they don't have the awareness of the dangers of roads or the dangers of cliff tops, all of these different environments and situations that they're not aware of, how important it is for them to immediately stop at that moment and return back to you and back to the van's position. So because a lot of dogs will run off thinking they're running
just run
back to their position, back to where they should be, and they forget that the van's in fact moved. And so it can get really confusing for them really quickly. Traditionally, with people in houses, you often have a garden, and so you've got a walled or fenced in area where you can teach them that training of going from one end of the garden and recalling them to the other and getting their attention without them running off into the wilderness.
Yeah. So our option for that was really the canal. We'd take him for walks on the canal, and so one side you've got a body of water which he's probably not going to go running into, and the other side it was usually a fence or some really thick bushes.
Yeah.
So after a while we felt quite comfortable letting him off the lead there for short periods of time, and then we found that once he'd stop responding to us calling or whistling, we'd be like, okay, let's put him back on the lead now.
Yeah.
So then he knows, right, okay, if I don't come back, I've got to be on the lead. In terms of him actually coming back to us, the surefire way is rustling the treat bag.
Yes.
And he'll come back, or holding his blue ball up. He loves it. So what you've got to do is find, if your dog's responsive to treats, because not all dogs are. Floyd definitely wasn't for the first couple of weeks.
No, he wasn't. Everyone was surprised by that.
Yeah.
Everyone was saying, oh, have treats in your pockets.
Didn't
make a difference, but his ball in that instance, he would follow that right into the van and everything.
Still does. So that's really dog specific.
Yes.
You've just got to find out what makes your dog turn and make a beeline for whatever you're holding.
Yeah, absolutely.
So the first time that he was properly off lead for quite a long period of time, hour and a half or so, we went for a cycle on our push bikes, and we thought we'll just see how he goes. He might bark at the push bikes, he might hate it.
Yeah.
Hopefully he'll follow along, and he did that. He went kind of next to the bikes and just followed us along the whole way.
There was very little other distractions. There was no other dogs at the time. There was no horses travelling through there. There was only a couple of people. So it was quite an easy environment for him to follow us and just get used to that idea of he follows us. We will keep on travelling and moving forward, and he's got to catch up with us if he's distracted. And on the whole, that worked quite well, didn't it? And it still does to this day. He will maybe stop for a bit, but we're quite confident now that he'll then make the extra effort to catch up.
And he never goes too far in any direction away from us when we're walking.
No.
Generally, there's been the odd occasion that he's probably gone a little bit further than for comfort, but he comes back.
So the recall training is really important to make sure
you do your recall training.
He doesn't get killed. He doesn't get lost.
Yeah.
It's your responsibility and our responsibility to make sure, that they understand the situation, because they've still got to learn it.
Well, it's the final little thing now, isn't it?
It is the final little thing.
Crescendo of travelling with a dog, be it puppy or dog. Pet passports.
Yeah.
What you've got to do to get one of those babies.
Very Europe specific, this. So travelling in and around Europe, from England to other countries.
Is it the same as if you wanted to take it out of Europe?
I have no idea.
Okay, we'll stick with Europe. That's
we
what
will
we know.
stick with Europe.
That's what we know.
It's what we've done.
So we'd recommend giving yourself at least 1 month, 6 weeks to get the whole passport thing sorted out. I think we waited about 3.5 weeks to get ours.
For the actual physical passport, by the time we put in the request to get a passport to physically get it in your hands.
Exactly. So there's a few things you need to do in order for your dog to qualify for a passport.
Yep.
Standard vaccinations, which the majority of puppies have anyway. So 8 weeks and 12 weeks, I think it is. Then you've got the microchip, which the majority of puppies now have done pretty early on. 1 or 2 weeks, I believe. I don't know. And then you've got the rabies vaccination, which is the be-all and end-all of having the passport valid to take it out of the UK, essentially. That's the thing that if anyone's going to check it, that's what they'll check. Down the microchip. So that's what you need to get the passport. Aside from that, to get into France, if you're travelling into France, Dover to Calais, popular route.
Or the other way back into, from France back into the UK.
You've got to, there's very strict time regulations on the whole worming side of things.
Yeah.
It's stricter for getting back into England, I think. Look that up. Double check that. But either way, you need to have, I believe it's within 12 days, you've got to have the worming done. So that's ringworm, tapeworm, all the worms.
And signed off by a vet, more importantly. It's got to be proven that it's been done.
Yeah.
You can't just say, yes, it's been wormed.
Here's the packaging.
Yeah.
Exactly. Well, one thing that we've found as well is you need to get some good tick protection.
Yeah.
Tick repellent. We're going to get one of those tick collars. They're rife here.
In kind of Spain and Portugal direction, they're rife, and they're very, they will kill your dog quickly and easily.
Yeah, be careful.
So on the pet passport side, we found the overall cost. You're looking at approximately £200. Obviously, it's different across countries, across the UK, and different across different vets. But about £200 will include all of the vaccinations, the rabies, rat vaccination, the worming, and the actual passport itself. So it's not too hideous a cost. You can leave the country without the actual passport. The difficulty comes in when you want to return to the UK. You will have to put your dog or cat, I think there's applicable. And ferrets, this is true, into quarantine for a period, which will cost you way more than the £200 for the pet passport and everything. So it's just worth doing before you leave to make it easier if you're returning. We also found that getting advice and knowledge from your vet during those periods can be hard, depending on how good your vet is.
Drag it out of them.
But we wanted to learn like how to feel their joints and feel their stomachs.
So I think each time we took Floyd in, the vet would feel around his abdominal area. I think just to see if everything was kind of processing right in there and his little organs. And yeah, that's the thing to do, is just say, oh, can you put my hands where your hands are and just tell me what to feel for, because she'd feel like, oh yeah, that feels fine, that feels normal. Would you know what it felt like if it wasn't normal?
Yeah.
If you're travelling, it's crucial to know, because they can't tell you.
Yeah.
The puppy or ferret, whatever you've got, can't tell you what's wrong.
Yeah, it's true. So pet passports, you don't have to do it, but you should do it. It's much simpler. Much simpler. So thanks for watching and listening. I think this wraps up our Puppy in a Van
Puppy podcast.
Do follow Floyd, which is Floyd the Van Dog.
Floyd the Van Dog on Instagram.
Check out his travels. You can find it through our We Ain't No Hippies channel on Instagram. Again, all of that is on the We Ain't No Hippies.
He puts a lot of effort into it because he hasn't got thumbs as well.
He does.
So it's extra hard for him to.
It is really hard. Yeah, getting his comments. So please follow, subscribe, and please like and share this video. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Bye.